Someday I may learn.
Okay. Ron, can you guys see that PowerPoint and stuff?
Oh, I don't know about that, but we'll get it figured out. Yeah.
So did you see, Sheila said Meridian paid for her flight and hotel, but she'll turn in the receipt when she returns to Virginia.
I'll need her t-shirts.
She said Meridian paid up front for her visit, so she'll submit those receipts when she gets back.
Hey, Rylan,
Who's gonna make checkout?
Meridian.
What's that?
can you see the PowerPoint on your screen now?
I do. Yep, looks good.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
glad we're recording.
Plug that in.
Yes, we just started recording.
I'll have a mouse.
Should be just now.
There you go.
Okay. So I have a tendency to be a lot. So there's probably a lot of extra information in this PowerPoint. You just skip over it if it's too much. Okay, so. Where did I go? There it is.
Yep.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so this was our agenda and you can all glance back at this as you want. I stole this stuff from Renee. I did.
It was a great presentation.
Okay, so if you were at leadership,
Oh.
she had a session over meeting management. I think that was the title, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, and these are the things that I thought were really important, which I'm the parliamentarian, so I can't help but put this stuff in there.
It was a while ago.
Oh, he still has it. Okay, so this is just some good stuff to keep in mind as we're going through a business meeting.
Whoa.
I think we're going to go back to share.
Okay, it's back.
Are you good?
Can you see the document still?
I can see everybody.
You can see everybody. We need to go back to share.
I think you have to hit escape.
Okay, let's find him again. Oh, okay, down, well, on your screen, there we go. Yeah, I told her. It's the PowerPoint, down. The other one's my email. Y'all might not want to see my emails. We're all gonna get your Cold War Creek coupons. It's not coming.
I want some of those.
Sis.
Okay.
Okay, we good?
Yeah.
I don't know how to get to this.
There we go.
You said I by the day, you said your turn.
I see it, Alicia.
I don't know how to get to present mode.
Down there at the bottom, right, the little screen, the little screen. Oh, shoot. Got it.
Scared. Look at us, we're so tech,
Such a good team, yay.
so proud of us. Okay, so these are the procedures for making basic motions and mistakes to avoid. So she mentioned that we never I motion, right, Renee? I move to.
I move, not I motion.
Talk to me here. Okay, and then consistency is key. So if motions were passed, remind the attendees as to what they were and when changes will take place. Remind everyone where they can find the minutes to review before the next meeting. These are just some really good practices to keep in mind. Oh, I may need to be over there.
There it is.
That should not be that hard. Okay. I can't see this. I move them away.
I like it.
Anybody how to move them away?
I think you can,
That
I
top.
think you just grab it and move it.
I don't want to touch something.
You're wanting to move that or the?
We'll just move the strip of people. Can you just minimize them?
Hit the power button on the computer.
There you go.
Sorry, you took over. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so awards workshop, here we go. There was a ton of people in there. I was really surprised. There was maybe at least 40 people. Yeah, it was a lot. Okay, so if you guys have additional questions about the awards, this is where you can find it, and there's a link there if you need to go and check things out. There's quite a bit of information in it. They voted on whether or not to do paper booklets or digital. So this is the last paper booklet that will ever exist. If you want one in the future, it's going to be digital, and you'll have to get on that website, the OKACT, and actually print it off yourself. Does anybody not have one of these? Or one of them?
I got all I could get.
Yeah, y'all just share. There's a lot of information in here.
That's included the criteria for all awards. Yeah, then we can be. We need to know that, and I need that for the website. Yes.
So they voted for it to be digital in the future, so. Okay, so the first thing they talked about was the application process. And this is just a lot of details about things that you need to make sure that you do if you're gonna apply for Teacher of the Year or new Teacher of the Year. These are specific to what we do in T&I. Okay, so you gotta have a membership, and it has to be paid up to date for both Oklahoma and national. And then, of course, your member ID is on the Techniques magazine. Just make sure you wanna be recognized. They talked about the lengthy process and how you're gonna need support of your administration. And probably some associated fees. Yeah, and I guess apparently if you accidentally put the wrong division, they will disqualify you.
Yes, and they said that's really sad when that you've nominated someone or yourself and you put yourself in and then you actually win it. People do that. They nominate themselves and then they go through and they realize they're in the wrong division.
You can nominate yourself?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and they actually suggest that some.
of the awards that were given this year were.
They just nominate themselves.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, but apparently they had to disqualify quite a few because people thought they were in a different division, or maybe they paid dues to a different division than they thought they were in, or multiple.
So if you pay dues to more than one division, you have to make sure it's the division you're in.
It has to be a division that you're in. And you have to.
But you're a dues paying member. But if you like they say, I, pay two different dues, I can only pick one.
Yeah, you can't double dip.
Yeah.
Which is apparently is a problem.
It is a problem, especially with our division
Yes,
and with the STEM division.
they focus that, yeah. They focus on that.
And you know what, honestly, and if you don't mind me,
No,
one of the biggest issues with this, and I told our OKACTE membership folks at the state level, is because so many of your schools register and pay your dues, they don't choose the right division for you because they don't know any better. So you assume that you're registered under T&I, like, and I think of
because I
you,
pay for two.
so you assume you would be T&I, but they chose STEM for you and paid for STEM first. And
And
so
you can
then,
go through the application process and nobody notices until quite a ways into the process. And then even if you might win, and then they check, and then you're disqualified.
Yeah, then you don't get to move on.
How does someone find out? Not that I'm going to nominate myself, but how does someone check?
you can go to ACTE and look at your account.
And it should be like when they mail you something, your account number
Your
is
number.
on that. So
Your
like,
member ID
your
is
member
on
ID.
your Techniques magazine.
Yes.
It didn't say how you checked.
if not, we call ACTE and we just ask.
Or you can call Aura and she'll tell you too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Aura?
Aura.
Yeah, Aura can tell you. The only reason I know, like, if you ever have to register for an actual ACTE event, you have to use your registration number to get in, and then I have to reset my password every time, because that's it. But, so on ACTE's website, if you go to login, the national website, if you go to login, If you don't know, I just go through and do the forgot username, forgot password, and then it'll show up for you. So,
Yeah, they just kept saying, make sure, make sure. I don't think anybody ever asked how we make sure.
No, they didn't.
Okay, these were the other things that they were pretty. Yeah, these were hot topics. So basically, when you're filling out your application in the portal, we need to make sure that we're only choosing 2 from the framework. So if you have one of those booklets, there's quite a few different areas in the framework. I don't even know what page that's on. Do you?
It's in towards the back.
I think it's like the thing. It starts on page 24. It's called the Program of Study Framework, and it's actually from 2018, so they've been doing this a while. There are 9, there are 12. You only pick 2, and you only focus on those 2. You can't do more than that. So when you get in the portal, you're not gonna know unless you have looked through all of this ahead of time and chose 2. So when you get in there, everything that you write to try to, prove that you're amazing and do things above and beyond everybody else are only going to relate to 2 of those frameworks. Even though you probably do more.
Yeah, my school didn't, I was up for an award and we had to do all of them.
Yeah, you're only supposed to do 2.
I wish I
And that was big, that was a big.
A lot of work.
Yeah, lot of conversation about that at the meeting. So even though you do other things, you do all 12, they don't want to know. They just want 2 that you focus on and be amazing in those 2. This has changed. There used to be multiple reference letters. You only need 1.
But they want you to ask for more than 1, so that way you can pick and choose your best that would actually kind of meet what you have in your framework. So everything balances together. So if this person talked about it, it's just reiterating your points, your 2 framework points.
Yeah, they did say to tell whoever is writing your reference letter, which 2 frameworks you're working towards proving. And have them also talk about those things in their reference letter.
That will just help you meet, dot your i's and cross your t's.
Yeah, and if you get more than 1 reference letter, they're gonna knock you out. Okay, so it's because you think 4 reference letters better.
Only upload 1 of the best.
Best one.
And I guess some things happened in the past where you can do multiple reference letters in 1 upload. Don't do that either. Okay, and make sure you have a professional headshot, and then your biography. They talked about this being an issue, just 1 strong paragraph. It's what they're gonna read while you're on stage, if you make it that far.
Needs to be a professional paragraph.
They specifically said no need for your marriage, how many years you've been married, how many kids you have, any of your family stuff, they don't wanna know, keep it out of there. Okay, and then this one changed. It was the post-secondary teacher of the year. Now it is changed to post-secondary professional of the year. Can still be an educator, but I get to add some more to the pot. There weren't very many entries for this award in previous years, so they're changing it up. And you must teach post-secondary students only. It's not in addition to secondary students, it's only. And then this is a little confusing. This is what an application cycle looks like. So the next one. Okay, so if you win at Summit in August, then you'll go to Region 4, and then you'll go to Vision, and then your reign actually doesn't begin till 2027.
It's quite
Okay, yeah, so it's a little complicated. Just be prepared. That's why they were saying, make sure you really want to do this, because if you're going to commit to winning, you've got a long 2 years there of participating, and make sure your admin's willing to support you. And they are trying to change the rubrics to where the interview is eventually going to be worth 50%. I think, did they say how many it was worth now?
10.
Yeah, so that's gonna be quite the change, and they kept talking about how AI can now generate a great application for you. So they do not want that to be worth as much.
But AI cannot interview you, you know, or it can't be you.
Yeah, your
has to
interview
be.
is gonna actually
That makes sense.
show. Okay, and this is what's gonna be voted on at Vision. It's the Teacher Educator of the Year, which doesn't really pertain to, you know, us as far as applying for an award, but if you are going to Vision and you're gonna be a voting delegate, which is Ryland.
And me.
Yeah, you too, Ryland, when you vote for this at Vision, the consensus seemed to want to keep this award together and not separate it. So higher education instructors are trying to separate this award from our instructional coaches, and we want to keep it together.
I'll make sure I reiterate that to him.
Why do they want to keep it together? Wouldn't that just give more people opportunities to try to do it?
Well, they said that if we were to separate it, they felt like this was something that the higher education instructors wanted so that they could get more of these Educator of the Year awards. So like if we took instructional coaches out of there, which apparently we win and they don't. That's what I got out of it. That was the consensus. That we look a little bit better than they do, and they don't really understand our instructional coaches, like what they do. But they are right now, they're in against ours.
And not every state has.
Oh, you going to the SEC.
Right.
Might be a reason, but it's not apparent up front.
Okay, if everyone says that's what it's supposed to be.
Well, we talked about it for a long time. And everybody in the room, I mean, there was almost 50 people in there, so we were all talking about this, and Roberta was very adamant that we were killing it in this award division. Instructional coaches are better than higher education instructors. There's not any in here that I'm offending, but that's what she said pretty much, and that we need to own this award and keep doing what we're doing, because that's what's so great about CTE.
And our instructional coach that is head of Northeast Tech, April, is up for the award at Vision. And so I guess, you know.
They're
she
just
inter-
basically trying, the higher education is trying to kick us out of the,
But they're sour grapes.
because they don't have.
Okay.
Isn't that what you got out of it?
That's
basically?
exactly what it was. That was exactly.
Okay, there's a lot more awards in there that, I mean, by no means is this all of them. These are just the ones that pertain to us. Okay, so, if we are going to do this, we could actually have somebody apply for this, but it is singular, no team teaching or anything like that. But if, you had like a current or retired teacher that you thought was great at this, we could, as T&I, nominate someone.
Great at what?
Community service.
Volunteering, yeah.
It says at every level, they talked about, you know, did you do it because it was your job, or is it like part of who you are? We want it to be part of who you are. So if you know somebody, we could totally nominate somebody for this. The same thing goes for this. If you know somebody for the Lifetime Achievement Award, we could nominate from the T&I division, somebody for this, even if they're retired. So Bonnie, even if you're retired, have you gotten this award yet?
No, they wanted me to do it last year, but I was busy.
So we could nominate somebody for this award, hint, hint. Yeah, they did say, you know, it's not that award, man, they hung in there for 45 years, you know.
Sure.
What did they actually accomplish in the?
Have to push that one along.
Yeah.
Jeff Clark, not just clocking in every day, yeah.
Cheryl Cooksey needs to do this.
Yeah, we need to nominate Cookie for this.
Absolutely.
I don't think we even talked about this last year,
Good on award.
but I feel like we could totally nominate some people for these awards. And then this is just some more information for your application. If you're going to be an applicant, and you're gonna try to do this, Bonnie. What makes a winning dossier, you know, paying attention to the detail. It says one letter, 4 letters isn't gonna make it sound better.
All the rules.
All those things. Oh, they also said that a lot of people were like adding links to their portal, so you could go look at their awesome curriculum, and they're like, no, we're gonna count you off for that. Don't add any links. And then every division, including us, has to do a 10-minute interview now, and that's new as well.
Right, so my committee members, which, we are going to have to interview all of the T&I people for awards. So it's gonna be a little time consuming.
Yeah.
But you can do them via Zoom, can't you?
That's
Yeah.
exactly how we have
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's some other ones.
And then is that the way they do it for,
For state,
State.
yes,
preparing them for that?
it is preparing.
Preparing them, it's also to make sure that they're in the right category and they're
Yes,
actually
all
doing
of
what
those
they
Yes,
say.
we already have all this stuff.
Yeah.
To make sure AI didn't generate their.
Well, I think we had a few that won last year that had already changed jobs. And they were
Oh.
like, you're a K-12 teacher in math now, why are you getting this award?
Yeah, they talked about a lot of that stuff.
So will they give any feedback on if, let's say they do five of those things? There's no feedback to say, hey, you didn't.
No,
We're not
there's
gonna
not.
review them and there's nothing.
So it's supposed to be a checks and balances, so the fact that it's put on our division to go through the T&Is. Then we're supposed to basically, like, it's our job basically to vet them and kind of
It's
basically
our
say,
first check.
hey, we're gonna move you on, but we need to fix these things in your application. Cause they can fix them when they apply to state.
Yes, true.
And then state is supposed to basically do the same thing to prepare them for nationals or to regions. And then regions, you're kind of, you go to nationals.
Because I don't think my school even made that. I actually went to a lady and that lady who quit. Yeah.
You can look at all
When it
that.
didn't, when it didn't go
lengthy.
through,
It's a lot.
yeah.
It's a lot.
Who quit?
She was in our marketing group.
It
doesn't matter.
Was out there at school, they tried to help people get nominated for awards. And they were running, zilch back from.
Yeah, they don't get any feedback.
Yeah, I thought it was really terrible because it's,
I think that's
supposed to make
why,
people the warm fuzzy, right? And just to like hit a wall and go, oh,
Yep, you're done.
yeah, and I'm kind of new to this, and this was the first time I've been to this meeting. But I really felt like that's why there were so many people in the room. There were so many people like you that had questions. There was a lot of conversation about like, how do we know? What are we supposed to do? Lots of people asking questions. And these are just my takeaways.
Just kind of on a note. So because we have such a small Oklahoma ACTE office, it would really take another person being hired to go through and coach people on applications and do all of that. So that's why they put it back on the divisions to try to help do that. Like we have all the time and all that. But if you do it as a committee, I don't think it's as bad. And we don't get that many applications. We just want to make sure that they're. So my only suggestion would be use that Google Drive and make copies of those applications as people move on so that you can show, if you have a sample group to say, hey, you want to apply for a new teacher? Hey, this person won 2 years ago, look at the Google Drive so they can at least see what they have to do and what a good application looks like.
But that has increased, has it not?
It has.
With it being an award applicants. stuff
How
like
many
that.
did we have last year?
We had 8 in one of them.
I think in that outstanding T&I teacher category, we always have
8 or
the
10
most.
in
Yeah,
that one, and then
the rest of them, we only have like,
there was probably 15 total would be my guess.
there's so many categories.
Yeah, probably. Now, these awards are different. They go straight to nationals, the region 4, and they're just ACTE impact awards. So they're on a different timeline, and they're, if we want to nominate like maybe a partners in progress or something. So we were talking about how maybe we could make them feel like they're doing more for us and giving them a little bit more recognition. I just thought this might be a way for us to do that if we wanted to nominate them for an impact award that was national. It's just a thought. And these are only on the state level. Bob Funk is actually chosen by a committee. It's not in the portal. And then the Dennis Portis, the Rising Star, actually has no application process. It's not confusing at all.
They do it at a superintendent's meeting.
Yeah, that's why I was
So if your
writing all this down.
superintendent's not there, then no one gets nominated.
Yeah, that we could nominate someone like your leadership.
Okay, that may change because for some reason, I was on the intro of that thing when they first started it, okay, for T&I. But I had a Fickner, one of our admins, was asking me all these questions. I'm like, what the heck are you up to? And then all of a sudden she's getting a hold of my wife about stuff and I'm thinking something's up. And so then they told me I had to be at Summit at 7 o'clock in the morning. I knew I was in trouble. So, but anyways, there was a process. Now they may have modified that. Is it just a pull one out of the hat?
No, I think it's,
It's like
they
you
decide,
said.
it's a matter of how much your technology center really cares.
Is it-
No, cares about awards,
Yeah.
honestly. And that leadership group, and if it's part of what's embedded in your culture at your schools, then it's probably gonna happen. But if you're at a school where your superintendents don't know about it, or your admin team doesn't know about it, then they're not asking the questions and figuring out who's gonna win this award. So it's really, unfortunately, it's really a matter of how involved they are with ACTE.
Nationally.
Well, I think even just, this is at the state
Oh,
level.
that's right. These,
You know, and I know some of our superintendents are far more involved and some of our admin teams are far more involved and really appreciate all of that than other ones. But they do submit them at a superintendent's meeting that,
well,
The
she did.
ACTE
They
team
said
is-
though, they said that if we wanted to nominate somebody
As a
from
team?
our, from our division, we could. We would just send the 2 nominations directly to Lori or Deja. So that was good to know.
And we've done that
That's something to
before.
look into.
Yeah, I thought it might be good.
So we could do one.
We did.
Yeah. Twice we'll send
Okay.
somebody.
I think it's a good idea.
Definitely look at doing that.
So many people that do amazing things, we need to make sure they get some recognition. And then this is the one that's changed the names, yeah. And that one could be individual or group, so anyway, you can just think about that. And then this one is any new program, maybe, new programs that are helping those less fortunate, is kind of what I got out of that. And then this one, my team actually did this year, it was a lot of fun, so. If anybody has questions about doing that, my students did win this year, so I could help you out on that. But that's the Student Award Design Contest, and that $500 does go directly to your students, not to you. And then they're really trying hard to finish up this worksheet. It may have already been posted to the OKACTE website, but it's trying to mimic the portal, because when you get in the portal, it's a little confusing. So let's let you do all the things before you get in the portal. That's it, I think.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
And also, people who would want to know right now who's on my member, who is on the committee is Matt Manoff. I have Cheryl Stretch, Olin Bundy, and Heather Wyatt. That's who is on it. They ask us to have at least 5 people on there, so we'll have a chair, and then the co-chair, and then the ones that I had just mentioned. And that way, we can have enough people to vote if somebody can't do it, that we've got a full.
Right.
Because that way it's not just 2 or 3 of us that's picking. That way we can have a full diverse crowd, I'm calling it, to vote.
So if you're on the chair or on the committee, make sure you grab one of these. Keep it forever. Put it under your pillow.
Okay. Right.
Good. Oh, I'm not
Josh, oh.
hearing that. Did I not? Can you hit escape again on that? Unless you want to leave it up there, I mean. I just don't
Down to-
know if we missed there.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Josh,
Okay,
Go back to the PowerPoint.
legislative impact.
yeah, on that front, our first meeting, because everybody and most of that stuff was done knowing that there was gonna be an election cycle. So everything had been handled, by the previous, folks. And so, the first meeting is not scheduled until, January, and it doesn't actually have a date on it. It just says January right now. So my assumption is here pretty quick, they'll come up. physical date, usually those are like 4:30, 4 o'clock, something like that, and they're still, they do them by Zoom now. Usually they were 100% in person, so, we should be getting more information shortly about PAC. Is my understanding, and I was on this at the last minute for, I want to say fill in, but make sure we had somebody, because we have 2 voting people for PAC always. And so we want to make sure that those people are able to vote, so. I know in the past, we got some that information, either through whoever is the president on those days. So we just need to make sure that someone else is getting those emails.
And Jeff Clark.
Yeah. But both those 2 should, for me and that person, sometimes those emails come to the president, sometimes they come directly to us. It depends on that sheet that we do, it's got everybody's name on it, if their emails are on there and it's correct and all that stuff, so.
We'll make sure if we get anything, we'll funnel
Yeah.
it on down.
Yep.
So I haven't seen anything, and I assume Rylan hasn't either. so
Well, I think they turned in that sheet and I think that should get us.
That'll get the
Yeah.
flow of information going.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Jeff, CTAC.
Since I have the floor, let me give out checks right quick. So Alicia's on Zoom.
Oh, no, she's right here.
Oh, there she is. I'm sorry.
Welcome.
I saw your name up there, but that's because you're on it there, huh? Yes, I got you. Okay, Zachary. Joshua. Is there anybody that went to leadership that I do not have or overlooked the paperwork for? Because that's all the paperwork that I thought that I had.
I went to leadership, I have mine's already taken care of.
Okay.
So I had nothing to
Okay,
give to
so
you on
but I
that.
do have your invoice for.
Only that,
vision.
yes.
Okay,
And then I'll have more to talk to you about vision later.
let me give you the. Okay, as far as CTAC goes. I had a lot of distractions when they were doing their Zoom meeting, but basically what I got was the same thing Josh said, that there's really not a whole lot going on there. As far as initiatives happening right now. Anybody else? Rylan, was you on that Zoom?
What's that now?
Was you on the CTAC Zoom?
Yes, I was. I was late. I was like 30 minutes late getting on, but yeah, I was on there.
Do you have anything to offer, anything that you heard on there? It just pretty much seemed procedural and since the legislative stuff hadn't came up yet.
Yeah, that was all that I took from it. I am new to it, so I'm just trying to take it in, but that's what I got.
Okay, thanks. I actually had a notepad sitting there ready to take notes and just nothing.
Nothing there, huh?
Right.
So maybe more to report on at the.
Yeah, after the next
It
meeting.
can be mundane when they're just doing procedural paperwork.
Right.
And this and that,
Sure.
but nothing that's of any.
Okay. So diversity, Shane, this is you. I assume you don't have anything to report on since you're still figuring out your duties. I believe they do have. Bonnie, you might know this, isn't it in January or sometime in Metro Tech when they do that diversity? What do you call it? Symposium?
Diversity symposium.
They can't,
So we might.
they can't call it diversity anymore. I think they call it something
I
else.
thought it was in January. Well,
Kaleidoscope.
It's called kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope.
but it's that symposium.
When I did it.
Okay.
Well, I don't know, they may have changed it.
We say a lot.
But it's that symposium, so we probably need to make sure,
Awareness.
we probably need to make sure that Shane, knows about that and maybe that he can
Gotta use different words.
attend that.
Change the wording on it.
Yeah, don't put diversity and inclusion on it.
Wherever we have diversity on
That's
our.
against the state law.
It says diversity
Okay,
cares.
we'll
Our
change it.
diversity committee.
Kaleidoscope.
Put it in parentheses.
I
You guys realize that's a state It's a state law. We can't say that.
We don't have to vote on, okay, so let's change it to kaleidoscope. Okay,
But I'm good.
Yeah. Thank you.
okay, so
Governor too.
Shane,
That wasn't even it.
That wasn't even.
Yes, sir.
guys, did you get that about that? Kaleidoscope symposium that usually happens in Metro Tech.
Metro Tech. What day in January?
Well, we haven't
Because that was.
really received any information on it yet. But what it does, we'll get Jennifer or Jeff to help you out, or I'll send it to you, either one.
It's, you, if
Okay, thank you.
you go to the OKACTE website,
Mhm.
there's a ribbon across the top and it has all of the events. And you really just have to be an information seeker and go look at that periodically. And it'll have the events that are upcoming on there. That's what I have to do every time.
It's not on there.
Yeah, so it'll, at some point, be there.
They should be. She'll be in now.
Yeah, we can. Jason's usually the one that puts it on.
She's like.
Okay.
The head.
Shane, you might ask Crystal too. I bet she knows when it is.
Okay, yeah, I'll get with her and I'll find out.
Okay. All
All
right,
right, thank you guys.
you bet. Mark, membership?
Yes, I have nothing to add, just now sort of starting to begin to learn my role. There's a meeting July 31st in Tulsa, that's the extent of my knowledge at this moment. If anyone knows if there's something in between, I do not know much about this position. Anybody's got anything to add?
I did it and they just have that one meeting.
Okay,
A lot of factual information and then when I went, they talked about, recruiting, different ways to recruit,
recruiting new teachers.
not just new teachers.
I was trying to look up our total membership
Yeah.
count.
Like even people in other things.
I can't find it. I just found last month we got paid for 42. That was all I could find, sorry.
What did we, is this tied somehow to that spreadsheet that we were trying to clean up of actual
the
membership?
Actual people.
No. Oklahoma ACTE can give us who has paid membership dues list. And they go back about 15 years, historical data. That doesn't, but see, it gets touchy because if you miss a year with Oklahoma ACTE, then they start all over.
Right.
Which I don't know how much you guys, there's nothing in our bylaws that says any of that. So when we give those awards, there's two different awards that are being given. There's awards from Oklahoma ACTE, which is if you lapse a year or whatever. Well, and there's also just T&I, like we just count and that list has been created and updated in our office and we really just go by when your credential was submitted. And to us and to SDE and you started teaching. And that's why it's tough because sometimes teachers start in November, so do you count them that school year or the next school year? Sometimes they start in like June, but they aren't actually teaching until August. So it gets a little bit complicated, whereas I'm like, and maybe you don't want me to be like this, if somebody goes, well, I'm year 15 this year, I'm like, okay. And I go and I just fix the spreadsheet and I'll look it up and I'll be like, well, this says only 13. But maybe they were a teacher's assistant for a year, or maybe they were a sub for a year and they weren't actually, I don't know how much you guys want me to be a stickler on all that.
What if they run a different division?
Well, and that's the other thing. Sometimes, and especially some of you that are more veteran than others, when the STEM split happened, that's a whole nother piece of it. And some of those teachers are under STEM and they come up and they're like, or they're under BMI and they come up and they're like, I didn't get anything. I've been teaching for 25 years, which to me that's horrible that we're not giving someone that's been here for 25 years.
Absolutely.
And so I feel horrible and I'm like, here, and then I go look and it's up to you. Maybe you should put something in your bylaws. I don't know. Maybe it just needs to be something awards needs to decide. So That was a lot to answer your one simple question.
He's not tied to that spreadsheet.
We'll have a meeting.
No, it's a spreadsheet that is in our J drive at ODCTE. And what I had our guys do this last year right before summit, as I had them go through, because we had, I think,
It was sent out to a bunch of us
yes.
and I just forwarded it to our HR and said, hey, tell them when this person retired from here so they can take it off. the
That's
list.
And
exactly.
honestly, the biggest issue in
All
this,
did that.
it goes above a lot of you and even above me, is somewhere along the line, the schools no longer had to report who worked for them. Like some of you don't even have PIDs. And so it's a issue and a process that we're trying to fix, that as occupational managers, we're like, this is not okay. We need to know who these people are, because we literally will get phone calls. Hey, none of your guys have come to see our new teacher. I'm like, you have a new teacher? Congratulations.
teach that program?
Wow. And then we feel like jerks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm so sorry. We didn't know they hired you. But there's nothing that has to be reported.
That's crazy.
Yeah, some of these, and then we have other schools that are like, hey, we're thinking about starting a new program, or we need help hiring somebody, and they include us on their whole journey. We have polar opposites in this state. So it really depends on the leadership.
All right, very good.
And then we have people that quietly retire, which you guys know those people. And they just like slip out. And you're like, and then you pull up the list. That was why I had to reach out on some of your teachers. I'm like, is this guy really still teaching? So.
This is 55 years.
Right?
We do get a spreadsheet. That spreadsheet really only tells us
700 for the paid membership.
how long they paid membership. We've tried to use that to try to figure out others, well, that, you know, for a long time, people may not have been paying
That's the state, though.
membership,
That's not
because
just T&I.
teaching,
That's a state.
you know, and then if you don't do it for a year or two because of some reason, then it may not count your years previous because it's not continuous.
And COVID screwed everybody up because some people didn't pay their dues that year. And so it says that you, like somebody like you, that's both of you, have been teaching forever. If you happen to not pay for an extended amount of period, you just happen to maybe not pay in 2020 because you didn't go to conference that year, so your dues didn't get paid. It'll say that you've only been a member for 3 years. And you're like, I know I paid my due, well, because it lapsed a year.
And membership right now is somewhere in like the 620s lifetime of work. Which would have been in September.
We usually bounce between 625 and 700. And it will go up substantially. So if I can on that note, most of you know that one-time funding money that came in, I have gotten more phone calls the last month about new programs being added, new teachers being added to existing programs. And which is a great thing, but we need to make sure, and you guys have to work hard in your tech centers to capture those people and be like, hey, make sure that you're paying your dues, protect those newer teachers so that they're getting that extra benefit of membership. So it may be something that Mark will get more information on, I don't know.
So,
He's
refresh my memory when that meeting was?
July 31st,
July 31st.
10 to 12.
10 to
10 to noon.
And it is a strategic goal of ODCTE. It's part of our strategic goal to retain teachers and increase course enrollments. So that includes membership to their professional organization.
You know how many of your schools are, or how many tech centers probably are the ones doing the like group memberships for the
The
whole?
total participation, Mark could probably do that. I want to say it's about half. We'll do TPP. Well, it's not total, it's not called that. but
Same kind of
for-
thing.
For Oklahoma ACT, I understand. It's about half, if I remember correctly. Institutional, thank you. Institutional participation. It's the same thing.
But I mean, part of it,
skills for growing up, it's fine.
I just thought part of it was trying to achieve that star. thing.
Gold star. That's gold star application.
I got a whole roll of gold stars.
Some of it is, and some of it, I think it's also to make sure, it's not necessarily about the teachers, but to make sure some of your support staff is being included in professional organizations because they get dinged on accreditation also. Your support staff,
Well, I knew there was an outside reason. It's not because.
yeah, they're supposed to be doing professional development also, all of your admins and accounting and all those people. So that's why we have all those divisions.
All right. Alicia, on the strategic communication.
Well, strategic communications is behind.
We all are.
So I've been trying to work on the website every now and then, but there's just stuff we need pictures of people that are new for the, you know, our president-elects, whoever we need to put on the board on the website. And I can take pictures with my phone, really. And then,
Meeting, one of the better times.
and then I've been putting in and changing out in our email addresses, all of the new members. Now, I just still, if people are in there, but I'm just checking and going through. So I've gotten about halfway through that, but that's been taking a long time. And you think, oh, you know, but as you keep going, 600 and something members, it takes a little while. So I've been trying to get those set up where we can go ahead and do our mass emails. So like if there's things that we need them to fill out or do or say, or here, go to this website and look at the awards or whatever we need, we can, you know, email everybody at once. So if you wanted to email everybody at once right now, there's probably a few people that wouldn't be on there. So I'm just trying to get the rest of those done. And honestly, that just really been taking a while.
Can't that come from her office or OCT?
I got
Pictures.
I got an Excel sheet.
Not pictures, but email.
Email
Yeah,
us.
okay, ACT sends me a list and that's where we get email from.
And he did give me the list. I'm just trying to update it in our
Yeah.
system.
Right.
But I will tell you, because I heard this at new teacher this year, there were one or two, I know one, when he signed up for new teacher, he was at one school, in between there and he switched, and before he left that day, he was at another school.
What?
Wow.
So, yes, so sometimes those email addresses on there. it
They won't get
depends on when it
updated
gets-
until Summit.
Yeah, until they reapply at Summit.
And
So
honestly,
there are some teachers that are getting mixed in that because of the flip flop of.
if their name wasn't on the list, I'd delete their email off of ours. I've just been deleting whoever, you know, because I don't know who's retired, who's moved, who's done whatever, you know, so or switched from which department. So I'm just trying to update what we had on that.
So I can pull a PID list for T&I. It won't necessarily be complete, but it should have the vast majority on them from, but that's all submitted in March, April. So I can, just so you have another cross-reference if you.
Well, and since that one's off dues, at least we know these are paid
Dues
member
paid,
dues.
yeah.
Okay, watch it.
Quick question, since there's 15 schools represented here, would it be helpful if those lists for our schools were sent out and we could forward them to the HR department and have them check them? Or, I mean, just a thought.
Just depends on how helpful the HR department.
Changes.
They have an HR department.
If it's for
That's the
CV,
biggest thing.
if it's for CV Tech, I've got a current
I've got that,
list.
yeah.
It's
Good
good.
current
Yeah,
listing on my desk right here.
And
T&I people?
Yeah, the
Some of our schools don't
problem
have
is,
HR.
is that all of that information
They're small.
should be the dues paying member. That is a push from OKACT
Yeah.
that we communicate with dues paying members.
But we could at least find out, I can
Yeah.
at least say this person will.
They teach here.
No longer working.
Yes, they do.
Teaches here, yes, is present.
That would help too, like, oh yeah, they retired.
And it's hard because
Do that.
information wise on websites, and you guys understand that, some of you understand this better than others, is some of these schools have locked down any communication about who their staff is. And it's supposed to be like that because people hack it and do stupid stuff. And so it's hard because some of our schools are still an open book and you can pull
This
pictures.
is gonna be detrimental in this engine. If this oil pressure is really this low, this will finish it.
Hey, Rylan,
Yes, sir.
we're on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Also, I found out I was breaking the law and I've got to get that
Well,
collage.
and one of the things, like, you know,
He checked
Mark
it.
mentioned, if it does go
It's
to,
got diversity on it.
Yeah, he checked OKACT.
Okay,
website.
see, you can say whatever it wants. They aren't in classrooms. So technically.
T&I website's okay, okay.
It's just, if you do travel, so if Shane did travel and Southern Tech approved it and paid for it, and he turned in an agenda that said diversity and equity and inclusion on it, and they approved it, if they got audited, Southern Tech could get nailed.
Cause I went to the event calendar.
Yeah.
It said diversity.
You all aren't supposed to say those words in your classroom.
So one of the things Mark mentioned, if we could get a list, even if we didn't have an HR department, we could, I mean, I've been at Francis Tuttle for 5 years and I pretty much know everybody who works there. And we have a fairly large school, so.
I think we're okay with just doing the dues paying list right now too, because I can take people off or whatever, and, you know, there's a lot of schools, not just.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And we have K-12s too, we have to remember that.
Yeah.
Right.
We may have more soon.
You're gonna
Anything,
update emails off of the
dues paid,
dues paid list.
Right. Any other update?
Not unless anybody has something they need me to do,
Nope,
I'll just add it to the list, and it'll get done when it gets done.
you got a lot on your plate right now. Okay, occupational license committee, Mr.
Yeah.
Josh.
That's a specific one that we did because they were talking about licensure, that really revolved around the Department of Labor. There is, a new-ish director at the Department of Labor, and with the people changing at the Capitol and the governor's spot, that was all coming out. And Mary Fallon, when she left, and they appointed a bunch of new people, it kind of disappeared. But you also had COVID that I think stopped it because it couldn't have in-person meetings anymore. I know that what got sent back to legislators, it was read, and there has been no action. And we're talking about literal years. That report was read, and that's it. And I mean, I probably go every 2 or 3 months to the Department of Labor's website. They still have previous meeting minutes, and on their event calendar, it shows no upcoming meetings. That's it. No,
Well, who's spearheading the apprenticeship stuff then?
what do you mean? Through,
Well, I mean, there's a truckload of apprenticeship program. I mean, we have at our.
Not everyone has a Joe Steele.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, Joe piloted what we're doing, but it's taken off. I mean, it's not just Meridian now. I mean, there's several others that I do. And I don't know who he's working, I can't remember if he's working with Construction Industries Board or who it is at state level.
So we have a whole division now on apprenticeship. HL's retiring, he was over it. Many of you remember HL. Justin Seiler's now in charge of that. And he and I actually have a meeting on Tuesday to have some more things to share and roll out. So it just depends on the tech center and how much they want to be involved in it.
Justin who?
Justin Seiler. So it really just depends on what your tech center wants to do and how hard they want to push it. Some of them, they're pushing it into their short-term programs website. And so they've got somebody in that office that's doing it, which is what they're doing at Moore Norman. Some of them are doing it as more of like an admin person, kind of like what Meridian's doing. Some of them are working with a TANF coordinator and a Cal Work or a Oklahoma Works coordinator, which is, they kind of work with DOL also. It just kind of depends on how the schools are structuring it. And some of our schools are like, we want nothing to do with it. Not very many.
So the occupational licensing committee, you're working with the labor board of labor.
we had talked to them when we went and spoke in front of, the Occupational Licensure Committee, at the Department of Labor.
So it's a sub.
It was a
Well, I was just wondering who, not necessarily state being your office, who's spearheading. Who's Joe? They go down to the state, don't
So it changed. So it was that for whatever reason, a bunch of that money came through federally and it got dumped into Department of Commerce, which was really stupid. That is weird. Those two people last legislative season, we split them off and they now actually work, they'll be under Justin Seiler. So one of the guys' names is Joe. I forget what his last name is. But he was one of the ones, like he went out to Autry and had a meeting with them and talked about, these are all the things you can do. So I think that's who you're talking about. And I forget, we hired another gal because the other guy, when we rolled over, said, I don't know for ODCT, so he quit. The other gal is actually residing at Pioneer Tech. Her office is there.
I just know when we come up with the new plan, they've got to go submit plan, the idea, the curriculum, you know, how it's gonna work. How many entities are you gonna have hiring, potential entities are you gonna have hiring these interns?
So it's those two people who work in conjunction with us. And then it's also, there's a gentleman, it's funny because we're talking about this yesterday, I cannot remember his name. He works for DOL, but he's the Oklahoma DOL rep. And he oversees all of the approvals, and Joe has gotten to know him very well. Cause that's who you have to submit all your paperwork through.
So do they work with you guys?
I think that when that was dissolved,
committee?
basically, this is what happened.
Right.
But we
I mean,
have
because they're
not-
in license, I mean, the apprenticeships right now, not all of them, but there's several of them that are in licensed trades. I know HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all three of those are licensed trades and they're all, that's where it all started. It's spun off with.
Yeah, and you've got welding, Cosmo that all fell under licensure.
We have them across, they're everywhere.
Yeah, well, even, I will tell you that when you looked at the list, there was originally they were gonna review those every 4 years. And it went as far as speech therapists and the basic peace officers and all those, their licensures would be reviewed by that committee. And then
Funeral directors.
Honestly, I think that this started before the DOL apprenticeship piece got pushed out, because that got pushed out 2.5 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I have a feeling that this may have preemptively gone back to the federal level.
And we've just tried to keep our eye on it because we know that
That's gonna do.
our current governor is a free market guy, and a lot of the free market entities, one of the things they go after specifically are any occupational licensure under the guise that it is a barrier to work.
And they end up putting the money in commerce because he does it. Sid does it. He'll end up saying, well, if we give commerce this money, it'll bring in more businesses and we'll just say that we could give them apprentices. But the problem is commerce doesn't understand education or CIB or any of our licensures. So that was the other tie to it. So
Well,
if we get the money funneling correctly.
If I remember right, and Josh, you might remember, we created this back.
Right when the emergency started.
18 or 19, somewhere in there, because cosmetology was having some
Still are.
issues.
Oh, yeah, we're still in our,
Still
we're
are.
trying to put us under the health department right now. I don't wanna talk about that right now.
I didn't mean to bring it up there.
Poor man.
Sort of subjects to this thing. And that's kind of why the committee was created, to get a foot in the door and have a map.
Yeah, and we had a person that was going to sit on that board and review those. That was non-state agency something, is how it was presented, but then they dissolved it before any of that could happen. But I do believe, and I will tell you that through a current legislator came back, who was on that committee, came back and said, we brought, I think it was 11 people to one meeting and spoke on everything that Career Tech did. It was involved with licensed trades and why those licenses were important from a public safety standpoint, not from an economic put money in pockets, but from the reason why we have a national electrical code is because people's houses were burning down and businesses, and why that's a safety issue. Why cosmetology has a license is because you can kill people or maim them for the rest of their life if they're not. And by coming through that point, I think there was a look at, oh my goodness, this isn't what we thought it was. And that was his words, not ours, but that opened eyes, and that was what was put in the report. And then I think that's what caused that to be dissolved the way it was. So I think it served its purpose. It probably could evolve into helping with those apprentice type deal, but we do know that the state agency has some good folks, and with our connection here, I think we're in a good place with that.
This is Brent's hill to die on.
Good.
Well, very good.
You picked a good one. Mhm.
Okay, T&I Leadership Academy.
Your
name was on it.
Well, I can speak to it, but we had evolved it, into a 2-year deal. This year, we're gonna use the money for the T&I Leadership Academy to send people to Vision.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we wanted to help
Okay.
support, and those of you who may or may not know, Mrs. McCaffrey is doing that, and she has a strong tie to T&I, this was also something that she helped spearhead when she was here. And we felt that if we could support Oklahoma by helping that, we wanted to, and we wanted to also make sure that Ms. McCatherine was able to put on the best show possible. And we know the more people that show up, the better that looks, not only for Oklahoma, but for our region. So we chose to spend that money there. In some hindsight, with schools being the way it is, it's gonna be a little bit tough, but we wanna make sure we can spend it that way. And then we know that with the amount of money that we have, we should be able to put on a better T&I Leadership Academy than we've ever been able to do before. And I think Ms. McCatherine put us in a good spot when she was here, and so I want to honor that legacy. We should honor that legacy, we should honor that legacy, because it turned out to be a really good thing. It was more than just what we had before, a speaker come in, feed people, send them back home. We had some fellowship and things like that. And I hate to say it, but the world is not a cheap place to do that. So
It was a cool event.
it was a very cool event, because I know that there were people there that probably are still involved because of that. And I think that's a good outreach component for us. I don't know how we recreate that, because she put a lot of time in there. A lot of time to make that possible. So it's gonna take a group effort to be able to do what she did. But I think there's the opportunity there, and whether that continues to be 1 year or every year is an annual event again, I don't know which is right. But I think that should be in our planning stages as we move forward. I don't know.
I have 2 things on it, if I can. So planning, exactly, as you said that, I think we need to have a committee and a couple people in charge, because if we're gonna do it next year, you've gotta have a plate. I mean, you guys know, you plan a wedding, you gotta have the date like a year ahead. And it's not a joke, but to get a hotel and make sure you have space.
Absolutely.
Second thing is, you all know I'm fully staffed now. My guys are working very hard to really trying to hold on to our new teachers, our last 5-year hires. Because we are starting to lose more and more of our veterans, and we need to make sure that we're keeping them with us. And so with that being said, they really are pushing me right now. They're like, we want a second new teacher kind of support meeting throughout the year. A lot of these divisions are doing like an in conjunction fall leadership, whatever. So we talked about money. We could do it that maybe the first day it's focused on teachers 5 years and less, and ODCTE can run it. And I can create a conference account and kind of help offset some of those costs. And then maybe day 2 or 3, if they wanted to stay and do the full thing, great. If not, we want to, switch in other teachers, whatever it may be. So it's a conversation we've had in our office, but I would suggest that somebody says, I want to take charge, and starts looking at places as soon as possible.
Well, that might be something.
I don't know if somebody really likes planning parties and conferences.
Now, does your department have say so on, like, for instance, I'm in auto collision, that makes it where I gotta be ASC and the student's ASC certified?
That's a state, that's in our state rules.
Okay.
Yeah, it's legislatively approved, not collision, just AST.
AST, collision too.
No, collision doesn't have to, you can do ICAR, you can do, yeah. You can do-
You know, some other stuff. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any other
There's certain
updates?
ones, yes, and certain ones.
Any other updates from Josh? Okay. All right, scholarships and awards. I think Josh was also on that one, maybe,
No.
or scholarship.
Awards.
Yeah,
Are you talking about giving a skills
this
USA?
is more scholarship awards.
This is that money that we
Skills
moved.
USA.
We talked about, and this is actually in the old business, so we can go ahead and
Yeah,
table it,
this
but
is
it
kind
is
of
the
old.
T&I gives back.
Yeah, and I think that's really what that was. for
Yeah,
that.
so we've got it tabled on the other side of on the agenda, so,
Okay.
okay, CPAC.
All right, Rylan, you got something to say before I get going?
He said no.
Okay, all right. So comprehensive professional council is a link between the technology centers and the K-12 world. Our goal mostly is to see if we can find them resources if they have a need. We have had 7, 8 requests so far this year. One has been fulfilled. We had a teacher that needed some stuff. And we found a tech center that had that stuff and it got transferred through the boards and everybody's happy and teacher has the stuff. We do get requests that says, I need instructional resources, and that's all they tell us. So we get back to them and say, can you elaborate? We have had a request for 100 lockers. Okay, so although we did find out in our last meeting that there's a school right near the outfit that's doing that, that's demoing a school and they're replacing a bunch of stuff. So there may be a connection there anyways. We're sorting all that out. We meet once a month. We will actually have a in-person meeting in December, but mostly we're on Zoom meetings, usually the first Monday of the month. And we go over current requests and the status of those current requests. At the end of the year, we'll build a spreadsheet that'll tell of the requests and the success we've had. So I may reach out to you and say, hey, if you have stuff at your school, who do I talk to about getting it? All right, because when I'm talking about stuff, I'm talking about surplus and that sort of stuff. I don't want to steal from everybody's program, but anyways, if I reach out to you to get that connection, you'll know why I'm calling.
Absolutely.
Okay? So,
Now that, can I interject?
go ahead.
Legally, you do not own anything in your program.
Well, sure.
So your board has to declare it surplus.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't just say, yeah, Jody, come out and pick up this widget.
Oh, yeah, yeah, each school's gonna have their own process, so.
It has to get declared surplus, then it has to be okayed by the board for surplus. Then the school that's accepting it has to approve that they'll take it. Okay, so you've got a paper trail of seeing where it went. And so actually, the whole baby on this whole thing was when their masonry program shut down and I asked them for their mixer. And through enough board meetings and enough Dr. Peppers, I got a mixer. So it's down at my program now.
Cheers to the good doctor.
Yeah, to the good doctor. So anyways, but and the whole idea is that, okay, CTE requested this in order to give our K-12 people some additional value for their dues. Because only dues paying members of K-12 are eligible for this benefit. Okay.
And on the instructional ones, if they want a specific instructor or something, let us know, because we can always push for them to go.
Yeah, we need clarification. So here's an interesting thing, okay? One of my former students happens to be on the committee. He's down in Atoka. All right, and they were saying something about what they want. They wanted a drone cage. And I'm thinking, oh, a little cage, put your drone in, so when you carry around, they said, no, that's a cage that you build out of PVC in a big net so that when you're flying your drone around, you don't kill somebody. It's like, oh, well, we can do those, so anyways, we have some, and then they were asking for some initials, and right then I got lost. It's like, oh, this, so anyways, you nerds would know all about that, but we have to ask sometimes, what do you really want, and give it to us in English, and it works out, so.
So Jody, I want to make sure too that they understand the importance of that us building relationships, Common Ed. I mean, we have a big disconnect there already. That really does help as far as, the political side of that. So I think all schools should be on board with that. And two guys, if he needs you, I mean, that's something he's getting ready to ask you for anyway, for more time. So
Okay.
I totally agree with that,
Thank you.
Do that.
Right. Okay.
I'm done.
Done, okay. Shuffle on down to new business here.
Quick break. Quick break.
Yeah, we'll take 10-minute break.
Good idea.
Man about a horse.
Right on my mouth.
Get the blood back here.
Yeah, have the latest one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Okay. You guys have a spare? Okay. Will you email me? And see if it's still on your campus? And then if I get a hold of it. Yeah. She's up there. Right up there. Really?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Ask these guys. I say all kinds of things I'm not supposed to say all the time.
Oh, and she jumped. All right.
She got
Here.
all these drones and this drone cage.
Yeah. There was some technology that goes, they had some. It said VEC something or other, and it's like.
Send her email.
Okay, great.
But maybe it'll be
That's fine, that's fine. I'm going. Okay.
So I've been blocking it.
Yeah.
I know this sounds bad, but just to handle.
Actually, no, wait, are you guys finishing this week? You guys are finishing this week, okay?
Yeah, and just the other day, couple days.
I got it.
Just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Because my guys are.
He was,
Oh, Jody came.
so that's the one, the association. Well, it's supposed to be a separate deal. You just got said three come through there and none of them let my experience go to up. You should get.
That Roberta Howard, she's got.
Well, no, they do check those.
You notice that
No.
framework is.
I can guarantee he did. He can check it, he'll do a post check. That's Alan Noss. That's awesome.
Yeah, see, he did.
He'll check it.
He come in there.
He'll be back up.
He said, did you get the SDS? I said, yes. Said, did you get the Iowa station? Yeah. He'll come see.
He'll be back on.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing.
Yes, it is just.
I did not accept, but I did.
Section of plumbing in my house.
Right.
Teachers don't ever even get. Most people aren't having the.
State one, I do.
Yeah.
Lord, right?
Other than
Or
that,
5-year-old, that's gonna happen anyway. but-
Oh, yeah. He thinks it's so cool.
It's just the new thing to do.
What are you talking about? What I can do? Wait till it snows. You know? So what you learned at school.
What's your?
How do you get on to him for that?
So.
So.
It says.
Spell your name.
But he's probably looking for this, because auto search you have to be. For vision, you can be in school.
That's what I tried to talk to her.
Good, how are you? You know, the way.
I do, but it's with.
But see, I could pass that. And now they might. They're trying to say it's.
That's right.
I remember, I had told him about it, and that's what he said. He just mentioned, he says, yeah, they'll get to you about that extension thing. Didn't know when he wanted to look that up.
So you need to, let me, I'll get you. Let me make sure you email me and let me talk to you.
Add some.
Maybe.
Yeah. Make sure I'm procedurally correct.
That's something.
So that's.
Okay,
that's
great,
an
great.
avenue
Yep.
you can take to your admin.
Yeah, well, I have, and the people for me have. Yeah, yeah.
Love seeing all your Facebook pictures. You know, I just feel like I know you better now.
It's good to creep on people on Facebook. I like it.
See?
Oh, because I am terrible at like high maintenance active friendship. It's just like, we could just like keep tabs on each other and be like, you're healthy, you're okay. I like seeing your family. Yes, that's me. Yes.
I'm not that high maintenance friend.
So I've got a fun fact or not.
Okay.
Heather, my instructor. Yes.
You should be proud.
I am proud of her. These can be colleagues with your teachers. I know. I'm proud of her. The ladies that team taught me are both still teaching. And so it's crazy and amazing to be colleagues with them. Yeah.
It's the only sad part is I wish you could have come through and for instructors.
Tori Tussing and I took our instructor
Together. Oh my God. See, I've been saying so long, I forget.
Yeah, I did.
That's who I've got right now in my house. Laura, Claire. Well, it's St. Clair now. Was Laura,
Was there before?
Yes.
Okay, but you taking her instructor's license? Good girl.
I'm so sorry.
No.
Oh my God.
Sweetie.
I'm telling you, after 20 years, it all starts right.
No. Now I know how it feels because yeah, I've been almost 21 years licensed. Yeah. So
You're gonna look back.
yes.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna be an.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, I remember an instructor saying I thought it was new. Yeah, yes. So yes. No, it's fine.
I forgot about that because I felt like, for some reason, I felt like you was the one that you had trouble getting.
No, it was just, okay. It was a weird thing where you called me at like the 11th hour and you were like, can you start in January? And I was like, yeah, I can. Yes, sure. Sounds great. Like it's right now. But yes, I can do it right now.
Okay, I don't know why I felt like yours was the one that.
Yeah, me and Tori Tussing took it at the same time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I left Norman, probably 11, 12 years ago.
I would have never thought that.
That's where I grew up.
Dating me. I came through as a high school student and then.
Yeah, and then as an adult. It's that good skincare, Heather.
Thank you, thank you.
Years ago, you had her.
Almost exactly.
Yeah, because right when you switched over from being a TA, yeah, because you were a TA in graphic design, weren't you?
Because they didn't get our room ready.
Yes.
Y'all were supposed to be in my group by myself. But they went to a new teacher program.
But then like they didn't have the new lab room, so we had to finish out the year in the little basement lab.
Yes. And so it was to keep me on and justify paying my salary. I did part-time in the cosmetology room as the assistant and then part-time with graphic design. The assistant, which sounds really weird, but at the time, my husband and I owned a print shop.
Yeah. And you were still behind the trail.
Yeah, and I was. I mean, all those things.
It's when Kayla and Blake were, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They were really little. Well, they're probably this age of your kids. One was 5 and or 6 and one was 4, so. They were little.
Listen, changed from her to her.
Let me see if I can let her
know.
Yeah, I've seen it. Right.
Yeah. So I guess.
No, and her mom works with me.
Yeah, she's the activity fund coordinator for the
Yes.
district.
I know, I've probably been driving her a little crazier lately.
She understands. That's it.
I tell her all the time, I'm sorry, can I get this, like?
She understands.
I'm really sorry, everybody understands.
Teachers, man, they're a different type, and I'm like, raise one.
Right? Listen, Mom, sometimes it's last minute and that's all you got.
Right? We didn't want it to be last minute either.
Exactly. I didn't mean for that to happen, but it happened. Yeah. The students come up with a brilliant idea and they're like,
make that happen for us. And you're like, looking at all their faces going, yes, I would, I make this happen for you. Like, I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. Hey, just need trunk or treat for Skills USA, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. It's gonna be possible. Right, you have to talk to the money people. And they're like. I know. Yeah, and I can do it in an hour. And I teach all post-secondary, it's almost that same way. They are, yeah, it's impulsive adult, this is subjective. Well, we have some of those too. Yeah, because they just graduated high school. But it's interesting, like they start, like their forebrain starts working a little bit. Just a little, and so then they realize that, you know, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from consequences. Right. Say whatever you like, but that doesn't mean you're gonna like what happens to you afterwards. They do figure it out, but they can't just be like, you know, super impulsive the way a high school.
Okay.
How they interact with
I agree, yeah.
The hard part, even with the adults, is that's sometimes what people think of our industry is.
And that's what I tell them.
I can go and do and say and act however I want, because I'm gonna do hair.
It's like our industry has.
And just tell them, you know, that.
Yeah, I always tell them.
That's what I need. We need to go to the Adobe workshop. And
When's that?
Let me tell her she needs to be on.
oh, I think they already had this one for this year, next year. I don't know where it's gonna, usually like in October or something.
Thank you.
She's gonna be like, oh my God, shoot.
Oh, let this girl so mean. Yeah, I tell them that on day. I'm like, you can continue to perpetuate a decades old stereotype that harms the industry. Right.
Or we can fix this.
We can fix this together. It's like.
We can fix it.
Explain. And that's something that we deal with because my co-teacher does not have a heart-led. So, yeah, the interpersonal relationships that work in the classroom are not as.
Hey, Matt.
Kids are constantly being pulled to the office.
A lot of students.
And my kids are just like.
Can you hear me?
Intentional building.
I can't hear you.
Afternoons.
I was just gonna let you know, it sounds great.
Your person has.
Had up until now anyway.
It's one of those things where
Thank you for moving it along.
you can't manage from the back, you have to leave.
Hear me okay now?
You can say, well.
Fast.
You're not putting in the work.
Also.
Yes, you have to walk.
Not gonna count.
No, exactly. Say that you're, you know, like a servant leader all you want, doing it.
I don't know what the problem is. You're.
Totally agree with you.
Had that conversation yesterday. I had one graduate. and She's like, I just want you to know what a difference it is.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get back after
Just
our
like-
pregnancy.
It is too late in the night for me to cry. I will never sleep.
I know.
Yeah.
Mine did that to me yesterday. 'Cause it was actually my birthday yesterday, but I took them for the but I took them for their Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, you're sweet. Yeah.
For their, they took themselves, they always think that you're taking them, but yeah. And so. I took a little, started. When I very first started out, yeah. Oh, two small kids at home and trying to go to college, yeah.
I think it would come for them, yeah.
So I started.
Say that would be a second semester.
Their favorite drink. So I do a little birthday cake and I give it to you and I got this little flashy, you know, ribbon and tie it together and put it on their desk for their birthday. And so surprised me with them. Yesterday, they got me a Starbucks bag of coffee and a little cup that says, love you, mean it on it. And they said, your travel bag, we thought you might want a real coffee.
It's so sweet.
Especially when Zach said something about the grill getting fired up and I don't have any idea what we're eating, but it sounds good. I don't grill food, so.
It'll be good.
Okay, so moving into new business, we do have a couple of changes to the agenda. We're gonna have to vote on. The first one, and you can write it in your agenda if you want. We're going to eventually vote on extending Jody one more year in CPAC because he rolls off pretty recently. He's offered to do that for another year. Obviously sounds like he's doing a good job. The other change that we're going to make is the fellows stipend. We've already kind of discussed that, so we're gonna table that to old business on the backside. Okay, so do I have a motion to change to alter the agenda, if you will?
No motion.
Motion?
No.
I move, you gotta say move.
I move.
And Josh second.
So we paid attention.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Ayes have it.
It's CTAC, correct?
That's the-
No, it's CPC.
Oh.
Can I explain that? Okay, so this was created 3 years ago, right? The State Department was, not State Department, but OKACT had this in their idea that this is what they wanted. But for the first year, we did absolutely nothing because we could not get enough representation from every division. So T&I, in theory, has 2 representatives. But we couldn't get 1 representative, so we could never get a quorum, so we could never do any business. It took us 1.5 years just to get our bylaws together. So we really lost a year having to do with the fact that it was just coming out of the ground.
Right.
So I hate to leave now when we're just starting to get things going. I mean, like I said, we're only 7 requests into this thing. We got a lot of kinks to work out, and I'll be around another year anyway, so that's why we kind of put this out.
Okay, so on the first bullet point in new business,
Did you catch that?
extending.
Sounds like you need to add him.
He's
Probably going to retire next year.
Retiring it. He's got a couple more years.
So our first bullet point here on new business, extending Jody 1 more year on CPC. Do I have a motion?
I move that we extend Jody's work in CPC for another year.
Okay. Renee,
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Got a bullet point.
Hey, can we send a note to my administration so they know that I'm on for another year? Because somewhere in their paperwork, they said, oh, you're rolling off. And so, can we just make sure that,
These minutes,
Huh?
you give them these minutes?
Yeah, it'll be in the minutes.
okay, very good.
I'll get them.
Send me a copy.
Get an email though. Yeah.
And then they should be on our list of officers, so we can put on there.
You're gonna change that date.
I need these terms.
Yeah.
That's,
I think Alicia's got some of it.
I need that one.
That's Ryland's elbow.
Oh, looks like a turkey leg.
All right, Renee.
I don't know what all you guys want me to share. I appreciate quite a few got on our hours updates for frameworks, so it's still in draft form officially. Hasn't been approved yet, but we had some changes. I do have a couple copies here if somebody wants them, if you want to know on hours. Skills, I only brought a couple copies, but maybe they can make us more. And just so you know, what we've now done, and once this gets approved, is I'll have this list posted so you guys can look at it. And it'll also have an extra column of the certs that could possibly be a part of your program. And we're gonna also do kind of a subcategory of that is just stackable credentials that anyone within your trade group area could do. For example, like an OSHA. So like what we're really trying to do and what we're trying to push our teachers to do is get a little bit more recognition for these students. And it's not necessarily you all, it's your administrators that are inputting all of this into CTIMs. And this kind of ties into enrollment and follow-up, which I know some of you guys have a bigger part in, is some of you don't realize they're putting in your IFWs, your frameworks to the state. And so like for Mark's classes, for example, they could probably get, I don't know, 20 or 30 certifications of different Adobes and different computer programs, and they may have like Adobe Works. And that's it. So when you go to do follow-up and you check they did all of these things, what happens is if I pull a report for you or for your school and you want a data report, it'll show that you had all these students do certs, but it's not going to tie to your program. So it's not going to say that Mark Pennington's class did 2,500 certs, it's gonna say they did 25 because only one of them was listed on your framework. So the computer system won't connect back if it wasn't there at the beginning.
So even if he does his follow-up, they will.
It'll show that in total, Canadian Valley did all these certs, but they go into like the general category. Because they have to tie back to that program where the student originally came from, and if it wasn't chosen in the beginning, then it's not gonna be there.
Interesting.
And the reason, and just so you understand, we have to turn in like data market reports to the state and to the federal level in regards to funding. And so we have to just make sure, because we have to approve that those are in fact certs that rely or lie within your occupational area. That's why all of my people have to help approve those and why we want teacher feedback. And so as I create this cert list and I add it to it, and that's really just me using the 8,000 plus certs that we have in career and technical assessments, is I want you guys to look at it like, is that all they can get in industrial motor control, or is there more? Or there's more stackable credentials we can do. And it's just to really make you all look a little bit better, but it's also to help you so that you know what's out there. Because I talk to teachers, especially our younger teachers, our newer teachers, and they're like, oh, I didn't know my testing center could give all those tests. Yes, absolutely, please do that. So, or they'll just put OSHA 10 when you do an OSHA 30. And that's, you all know, that's two totally different things. So those are the types of things we're working on next. And I do officially, as of yesterday, have power over our T&I website on the ODCTE page, so I can change things around. So you'll see more changes and additions on there. Only took 2 years. So you'll see some changes on that and some things going on there.
I've got a question, and maybe I just need to talk to her, just you and I, but for my program, we have three Adobe certificates that my students could take. I don't, because my advisory team members are saying they don't matter, at least in Oklahoma. I know some teachers do.
So what certs do they need?
What certs do they need? Do they need, there's,
Yes,
from
they
what
need
I'm
to
getting is there's no certification necessary. They want to see portfolios. But is it going to make my program look better?
You have to have a cert.
Gotta have at least one.
You gotta have at least one.
We haven't done certifications except for 1 year. That was my first year here.
So
Now
this is a federal thing, and it's funny because I was telling a couple people, I was in Atlanta last week at the Airplane Association educational meeting. And if you're at a higher level, when you're really dealing with funding, you have to have a course that's tied to an occupational outcome. So that's your civic thought. Most of you guys kind of understand that. You probably don't know how far that goes, but it really ties to it. And those SIPs and SOCs have to tie to occupational outcomes, meaning if it's not a degree, what are they getting to say, I did this, I completed this, I have this, because we're not giving them an AA or an AS. Now, if you have articulation with a local junior college where your students are getting that AA or AS, which some of our programs are, then that could count as their cert. But if they're not, all they're putting is they're showing on a transcript if they're a high school student. If they're not a high school student, they can't even show a transcript that says, I went to CV Tech for 2 years and I did AV. What'd you learn? Lots of stuff. Here's some pictures for my digital portfolio. Please look it up. So you don't have any proof of what they have. So we can't count them as a completer because they did not have an occupational certification.
My admin did not know that.
And I'll use electrical as a really good example. You know, all of our licensed trades, it's all about that CIB apprenticeship hours. And so there's not really necessarily a test they can take until they get enough hours to go sit for their apprentice. But in electrical, they can do a multimeter. Of course, they do some OSHAs. There's some other like small ones they have on like pipe bending and installation, those type of conduit and those types of things. And so they can get those smaller certs because, and you have to think of it on the flip side, if a student leaves your program, if they transfer to another school, if maybe they only finish a year, whatever happens to them, how do you prove that they did anything in your program? So it's a blessing and a curse, and I can talk to you more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
probably
want to
something
take up.
just need to
Yeah.
follow up with.
Second thing, Skills USA, officially, we updated the competitive events list. This is on the Oklahoma Skills page. We had regional host meetings, so if your competitions have, and I made extra copies of these if you guys want them. If your competitions that you compete in have regional competitions, please know that they're starting to work on those. The regional district breakdowns, we were triple checking them again yesterday and found another couple schools that were left off. So those will be updated. I think she was gonna actually post them today. And there's something else on that. I don't remember the other thing on that. It'll come to me. The last thing is executive council met last week for Skills USA. There are some changes that were made to policies and procedures, and then coming up at our next executive council, they made, so in our bylaws, it says for Skills USA, if we're going to make a change in our constitution and bylaws, we vote on and have to have it actually talked about, discussed, and voted on finally at this next executive council meeting. So some things to come into play, and I know that this is not necessarily a student meeting, but I want to make sure I'm sharing this with you, and you can hopefully share it with your fellow teachers. One of the things is we've put out, they passed it to, because it's a policy change, they did pass this. It is no longer that a school can put up 2 state officer candidates per school. It's now only per district. And they're trying, and that was promoted by another teacher. They're trying to make sure that they're leveling the playing field a little bit more in regards to state officers. So
Say that one more time.
So you can only put up 2 state officer candidates per technology center district. Versus it used to be per school.
So Michi Tech can only
I
put
mean, she can
2
only
up.
take 2. Francis Tuttle can only take 2. Canadian Valley can only take 2.
Oh.
Southern can only take 2, but they could only take 2 before.
Yeah, because
Whereas
we
Francis
only have
Tuttle
one
could take
campus.
8.
Yeah, but that means that out of all the campuses, only 2 students can get a chance to actually do it.
What was this?
It actually came from the small schools, and this is why, and a lot of you don't know it, this is the flip side. This is what they originally started to change, but they got so much pushback they didn't. Our voting delegate process, when you go to vote for candidates, is all based on the size of your school. So, and I'm not gonna be completely right on my numbers, and I'm gonna apologize. I think Autry gets 3 or 4 votes, but 4, I think that's where we're at. Canadian Valley gets 36. So how am I ever gonna run a kid if I only have 1 campus?
Hey, guys, could you fix the sound?
When you're stuck that way, so it was all it had nothing to do with our office, it was all grassroots by teachers that they're trying to run more students and get more students involved across our state so that the same schools are not having the state officers and running over and over and over again. So that did pass, because that's it's not a bylaw change, it's a policy change. So, if you have students that are leadership kids, just kind of know that you may have to have kind of your technology center campuses before they go on if you have multiple campuses. So those of you that are smaller, this is your opportunity. You got a kid to run, you have a little bit higher chance. The second thing that came out of it, which will be voted on, it's a constitution change, will be voted on in January, is our bylaws currently read that we can have like 70 people. Can you hear me now, Ryland?
I don't think so. I don't know why we didn't. How we lost sound.
It may be his phone too. He may need to turn up his volume on his phone.
I think it is just his phone. I hear you guys fine.
Thank you.
So the vote will come, and this actually came from Kendra. She doesn't care either way, but right now the bylaws read that, and I don't know all the verbiage, but you can have like 2 district officers, and then each of them can have an advisor, and 2 local students, and each of them can have an advisor, and each state officer can have an advisor. All those people are part of your executive council, and all those people can vote. It's like, if you really count and you break it all down, it could be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70 to 75 people. We don't have that many people show up to executive council. Bonnie knows, she goes to those meetings. She used to go to those meetings quite a bit. So it's like Kendra said, she doesn't care, but she just wants the bylaws to read correctly. There's a lot of discussion on this. One side said, well, everybody should be able to come and they should all get to vote. So that means if I really want something changed, like how many state officer candidates we have, then I can bring, all 30 of my teachers and we can make it work. Is that really what should happen? Some people are like, no, this is a student organization. Maybe the students should be coming and the advisors shouldn't get as many votes. So if you have an opinion on that, I would highly suggest whoever goes to those meetings represented your district or your own school and have a conversation with them about it because it will be voted on in January. The only other thing I have is, you see my team out and about, just please say hi to them. They are working their tail feathers off right now, especially for our new teachers, unfortunately. I caught flack from a couple of our more veteran teachers last week. They're like, your guys, they walk in and they walk out of my building, they don't even come see me. I'm like, they each have somewhere between 40 and 60 teachers, and we were tasked with all of our new teachers had to have 3 visits before January 15th. And so they are busting their heinies to go see it. So I'm sorry, I promise they'll come back and see all of you. They just know that you know what you're doing.
One of you guys spit in my room twice.
Well, and that's it. If you're next to a new teacher or close by a new teacher, you may see him regularly, which is why Mark gets to see, because there's an esthetician teacher right down the hall from him. But they're trying really hard.
They've been in our area because we have several new teachers, but every time.
It's usually just like this, like, hey, how's it going? They're
Come on,
They came through all of
Yeah.
our. The other day.
Said hi to everyone.
Yeah, a week or so ago.
It's just a matter of how much time they have that day and those types of things. You guys have anything else for me you need? No?
I have a question about
Yes,
the
ma'am.
framework. Have those hours been decided on or anything?
So what I have to get
May not be a good time to ask, I don't know.
No, it's in draft form, so Corey Gray has to give final stamp of approval. I have a feeling it's all correct. Anything that's highlighted yellow on there, is basically like more like IMB, like we have to change
we're
the
pretty
computer
close.
system. Unless I have somebody yelling and screaming, they need something fixed, and I don't even know if this is the most updated draft.
So they're all 480 and 960. That's kind of what I wanted.
Some of them are 600 and some of them are more because it depends on what their third-party cert is. So like all the licensed trades all stated 1,000 for CIB purposes. And cosmetology and barbering, I think they have to post everything next week and I'll find.
Gonna say our change, so that one.
Well, they changed them, but they won't tell us what they changed them to, and so they have to publish them for. It's on the website. Did they finally post it? Yeah.
So I can take this?
Yeah. It's on our webpage too, if any of you guys want it. It's on the bottom of our landing page at the
I
very.
knew you had done
It says
all of the
draft.
meetings, but I didn't know that it was final. So
Yeah.
Go you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda was checking account signatures. We talked about doing 2 signatures on checks. And the name was brought up for Jennifer just because in close proximity at Southern Tech to Jeff, I think that makes the most sense. For sure, that way we're not having to, run around getting another signature halfway across the state.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we ever changed.
It's never been changed.
So it says crystals on it.
It still says Crystal.
They
Crystal's still
live
on.
together, so it works. We need.
So you don't need treasurer.
No, it actually
Unless
caused
Jeff wants
friction,
to-
actually.
Yesterday, she said, Jennifer.
So we need,
to get it fixed.
so we need to add
Simmons,
Jeff
right?
and
So
Jeff.
originally, we were taking some people off that have been on there for
Yes.
ages.
That's gonna take a note in in the minutes.
That's what's wrong.
That's,
Take it
that's
back.
what.
So,
Right.
Take to the back.
ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Okay.
I move
Good job.
that the Simmons bank account is fixed to remove Crystal McCatherine and add Jeff McCatherine and Jennifer Laird on as check signers.
Are you on there?
No, I don't, and I cannot be on
Okay,
there.
I can't remember.
5 seconds, but you need to make sure you put all their names in there, because
Yes.
as a person that has to
Do
do
we,
with this.
do we need to say remove
You say
any
this.
other?
Yeah.
And remove any other
Any other?
T&I association names that are not on our council.
If you could just say remove all of their names.
Well, I don't know if Ryland's.
Is that up for a motion or what?
Yeah, I moved it.
Yes.
Yeah, I make the motion.
Next second.
You can't do that anyways.
Yeah, you can make a motion, you're president.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes.
Mark, Josh, whoever wants it. Okay.
We will go in December to the bank together.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
You know, that's the only thing you'll have to go to the.
So moved.
First.
Crystal would.
So
Yeah.
take 2 forms of photo ID and like electrical or something bill with your addresses all matched, because Simmons Bank is so much fun to deal with.
Okay.
Question.
Yep.
Is there, this comes up every single year or every other year now. Is there a way to simplify this process for whoever is next?
No, when you go
I
to
think so. It's more of a bank issue.
Bank
anyway.
issue.
It is.
So,
That's
If I
fine.
went and asked, yeah,
First.
yeah, that's true.
The way they got around it forever was they always had it residing in the ODCTE office, but we can't oversee funds.
Funds.
So that's why it has to be separated. Now, some of them have other people that are signers on there, like they're program specialists, but I don't.
We just need to remember that if Jeff or I go off, we have to do that again. Same process.
It's just, I mean, typically it comes up at your first meeting in the fall.
Right.
That's when you do your corrections.
Sure.
You just have to remember.
Make sure we do it. Okay. All right, skipping fellow stipend for now, moving down to Region 4 in April, which we talked a little bit about in the financial report. We said we're gonna send the cluster presidents. Obviously, that does have a little bit of conflict being in such time with Skills USA, so. In April?
Yeah.
Oh.
So send confirmation, I guess, on those cluster presidents. Zach's not here. Are the cluster presidents?
I'm a president-elect.
What are you talking about?
President-elect.
He
Yeah, it could be either, yeah. We could do either a president or president-elect. Pass it down.
What did we decide we were paying? Just registration or?
Just registration. A lot of people talked about they'd probably only be able to go for a day anyways.
Right. Down and back.
With it being in the city.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like our school can be, I'm not worried about that, against you. Man, gone a whole.
Their events anyway. Oh, yeah, it's under more. Not events, it's under more.
No, actually, I don't get big tree.
Registrations, 2 meals and 2 receptions.
That's it.
That's our reason. Watch out for Robbie, he takes that contest pretty serious.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Can you send me to the Nevada one, please?
In Vegas, I'll go.
You'll need somebody to go with you. I volunteer.
Register.
Is. Sending.
I know that you're doing, decided to do that.
In the previous meeting.
September meeting, right?
Check back later for details.
So was it?
It's gotta be done, right?
It's April.
What's the deadline for signups, like
My
4th
polo.
of January or something like that?
It doesn't even say.
You
Oh,
gotta have.
wait, what are you talking about? Oh, skills for regions?
Yeah.
It opens December 4th. I forget what day it closes.
Like the 15th of January.
Our in-house drop dead, I think, is like the 7th or 8th.
And I think it's the 15th.
Right.
The contests are all the.
I guess first we need to figure out what kind of.
I know, well, we want to real early
go.
Who's going?
Well, with so much conflicting, but we can, I think if we could either get.
Spots.
How many people can go? Count how many clusters you have and
I
that's how
really
many
don't think
people.
it says how much yet.
How much is registration?
That they don't.
We haven't figured it out.
Check back for details.
Well, I think we've got enough money.
Yeah.
We've got to shell out some of that money. I think this was a way to get rid of some of the money.
Is it in your approved budget?
Yes, it
Yes.
says in there in parentheses
It's
under
under that
special projects.
Special projects.
There's $7,000 there for some of this stuff.
Special
But
project.
I would also suggest that you say no more than this many people, but we did say when we met leadership retreat in Durant that they weren't gonna pay any travel or housing, they were just paying
Registration.
registration. That's it. That you're on your own to get there, to have a hotel room if you wanted to stay, because a lot of people said, I probably won't even stay, I'll just go for one day because of the timing.
I'm thinking it would do it to you.
What, is it region
Region 4.
Yeah, Region 4.
So Michael Colwell's the president this year.
How much does it usually cost for registration?
And two, Matt, we'll have another meeting in between anyway in March, so if you wanna, if we need further discussion, you can do that too.
Is that gonna, yeah, we are gonna have one in March, but if it's in April, that's pretty close. And
Uh,
we're gonna need to let school know and stuff like that.
Yeah, you need to know right then.
so
I'm asking.
none of these regions have any of them.
I know, but.
Except for Nevada, which is not gonna tell you right
5
now.
clusters. So
So,
we have 5 clusters.
He's gonna go.
Ryland, are you wanting to go?
I can hear you, Matt, go ahead.
You want to go?
Region 4.
I'm gonna go to Region 4, yeah.
Okay, so Ryland and either 5 cluster presidents or president-elects.
Yeah.
The cluster presidents and president-elects, they can rock, paper, scissors.
You're gonna max it out at 6 people.
Max it out at 6 people, yes, sir.
And they just need to let, who win by when.
We need to let Jeff, me and Ryland know so we can get the registration process going.
We got 8.
So cluster presidents get with president-elects, you guys get together, figure out who's gonna do it. We got Ryland's name down. Yeah.
So like you have some president-elects or presidents, plus that are not here, right?
yes.
We do have some.
So I guess
through the 25th.
when they get a copy of the minutes, just
Yeah,
how.
yeah, we'll send them out an email. You got that, Melissa?
Nope.
No. Okay,
When you, I
So-
would, yeah.
either cluster president or cluster president-elect.
So.
You
are we
may-
gonna
Not
have
that part.
Registration, or are we gonna?
I just didn't get the.
Have them register and then.
They have to register because they have to register under their membership number to get the ACTE discount.
We'll have to reimburse them.
Reimburse.
You have to reimburse them.
Reimbursed for registration.
Melissa, I'd suggest just making like a Google form or something.
I
and
probably
sending
have a
it
sentence
to
to take
them
the whole-
if they say they're going, so that you have a spreadsheet you can give Jess and so you know going.
That's a good idea. Okay.
Then they all have that pertinent information.
Okay.
It stayed home or how you
All right, good there. Sponsor, okay, ACTE awards.
This was suggested from you.
Sponsor?
A topic of conversation that you had emailed me. So that's why I put it in. And then I tried to call you to talk.
There was
Leadership award.
Oh, leadership awards.
Don't know. She just put in there to suggest that we talked about this and had it on our.
You have $60,000, so it'll be something you add to your budget next year that you can help pay for to Oklahoma
For
ACT.
like partners in progress or something.
No, all of them have.
Just to like put money in the pot.
Express personnel, sponsor, you guys know, they walk up, right? And our key little state officers are up there and they
Holding
say.
hands with Bob Funk, yeah.
The new teacher of the year, sponsored by Express Personnel, like we can pay to, no different than we don't donate money to PACs, but however we funnel that through. If it's something that you can talk about, if you want to add it to your budget for next year, you could do that.
I like that idea.
That's a good idea to move some money.
That came from OK ACTE more than anything, like, hey, guys, you have a lot of money, you're not supposed to have that much money.
Right.
Here's some things you can do with it.
Okay.
We,
So that-
you say that, we have a person who wins in our area every year, but does not make it on stage. We could sponsor our own check at Summit.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So
Can we vote on that now?
I would.
it wouldn't go into effect this year. It would go into effect, if you have to run it, that's something you would have to add to your budget for.
Run through the next year's
For
budget.
2026.
We table that to.
I think we need to table that tomorrow.
And-
For summit.
I'll step back to let you guys talk.
So you're saying the T&I new teacher of the year, we give them a check for $1,000?
For
You
something.
could if you wanted to. I just,
You got teacher of the year,
So-
you got the T&I.
I'm sorry, I had to think about what this was. Conversation from Lori, Deja, and Aura, like, y'all are sitting on way too much money for our 501(c) status, like way too much money. What are some ways we could spend it? And it has always been, and it's been shared with me,
Barbecue at
the
sea.
direction of the group is we want this money to go back to our members. And so they said, well, you guys can sponsor awards, you can help sponsor the cocktail hour at the awards night, you can help sponsor, I mean, we can help sponsor all kinds of things at Summit. And so it's a good way to use your dues money to give back to the association, you know, all those things. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
You can talk about it more, actually. But it wouldn't go into effect at Summit 25, it would go in effect Summit 26, because you need
We have to have body.
on that as part of your budget.
Okay.
I think personally, that sounds like a great idea, but maybe we should give a little less on one and just try to sponsor all of
We'll talk about it.
In March.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
them. I like it though.
Did you hear the consensus to kind of talk about it a little more in the March meeting?
Sure. I was just throwing that out there to give people something to think about. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so roles and responsibilities, we do have the new booklets that I passed out. Everything's pretty well updated except for the State Department, folks. Mark said he would, be glad to fix them, but I need to figure out how to get him a list.
This is the second or third time these books have been modified by somebody who's not me.
Okay.
I was the one who came up with the idea. I don't want them screwed with. If y'all don't want something in there, just ask. I'll take it out. If you want something added, I'll ask. But as the person creating it, it's frustrating when I put all this time in and somebody who doesn't know anything about it is just making changes at random.
And
That's
I
my
sent-
issue.
I sent this to Ryland, so it's the one that I have somewhere that I had copied from something, is how that ended up, so it would be my fault.
Well, I'd rather blame Riley personally.
Okay.
Let me ask this.
Well, I mean, it was the thing of just getting them out there in a paper form where you can put it on your desk or whatever, and look at it randomly. I mean, we needed to get the vice president part out of that. So that was my main concern, Mark, and I didn't really even know. So maybe we should put that on there that, you know, in that some way, make a note on that spreadsheet or whatever on that form.
I'll be happy to print them. I've got all the facilities. In fact, it would be good for my students to have the opportunity to make 100 of these and have to bind them and all that. I mean, I'd rather do it myself personally.
No, I'm good with that, but like I say, I didn't even know who created. I thought Amanda created that, so I didn't know. Okay.
Question for the group.
I've got it pulled up right now on my computer.
In this roles and responsibilities book, how necessary is this page? Because if that's the one that's gonna be updated the most frequently, can we omit the
What you
page?
could put in there is like a link to the webpage.
A link to the webpage, maybe the main phone number, I mean.
Or you can put the divisions in their phone number for the.
Put the division.
So-
But I wouldn't put a name on it.
You're talking about
The State Department folks.
The State Department.
Kevin Taranis, John Day. those
Pretty
are
much,
their
I scratched out everyone, but I think
Got
Tina. I think Tina's the only one left on there.
The reason that's in there is because I thought it would be good to have it.
Okay.
So,
It's good FYI.
But just as much as that changes and trying to stay, you know, ahead of those changes, if we only do this once a year, but we have 3 people
Sure, I
jumping
agree.
through those jobs every year.
In fact, when we originally talked about this back in Autry like 3 years ago, that was brought up. The concern of that being kept current.
And actually, well, I could say this, you can leave the phone number on there because the phone number stays
The
with.
phone number's still gonna go to that person as we discover.
Okay, so we just pull the
Yeah,
individual.
so I.
Names and
I'll help you.
emails.
Yeah.
I'll help you and, like if you call Chrissy's phone number,
Uh-huh.
that goes to Ricky now. So it stays with the position.
The original idea was when I came on board, I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing for like the first 2 years. So
I'm in the same boat.
this started, trying to build something for everybody that's on the board.
No, this is
We appreciate
great.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
And please don't take that I'm complaining. I was just trying to explain the idea behind it.
No, we appreciate it. So, Ryland, did you hear that?
Yes, and he's totally right. I mean, Mark was the proponent for that because,
So,
you know, just like these new people that are coming in now, I think we need to be able to hand that out at August conference, a book and a page for them to sign and fill in all their information. Poor Melissa has scrambled trying to get all that crud, together this year. So there's definitely room for improvement.
are you good with what I just pitched to the group
Yep, I am.
about taking the names and such out of there? Cause like Kevin Terranes and John Day's still in there.
Well, I totally agree. You guys are right on the right track. I just was kind of expanding on that. Mark started something that's really good, and we do need to get it cleaned up.
So what you wanna do is take out the ones where it has the information for the career tech people.
Yes,
Just leave this
basically
one.
lose the names.
We have a plan.
Yeah,
Names and
yeah. I mean, everybody's got roles and responsibility, and then there's Mark.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
You know what I mean? He bless his heart, he does everything we ask him to do. So he does. Yeah, I mean that where he's at is a mess.
That's why they voted to make it digital, because that was happening to that awards packet. And-
Changing all the time.
Yeah.
It is, I've sent PDFs out to everybody. That is, I could very, if we make a change, I just shoot PDFs out. I like having a physical book, but it's also because we can make notes and changes to it, but sending PDFs out would be no problem at all.
I will say this, we don't have to print mass quantities, but a new teacher, I think it would be very beneficial because we can then have them go through it and you'd be amazed at new teacher when they come out of industry and you make them turn one of these on. They're like, do I have to keep sitting on this?
Well, like Ryland said, we need to have one for when we have new officers come on board at Summit
So
and
we don't
hand
have
it
to
to
print
them.
mass quantities.
I spoke to a new teacher.
Yes, it still says it's recorded.
They don't know.
They don't know nothing. And you can explain it till you're blue in the face, but that doesn't mean nothing. And a piece of paper you can put in their hand. I mean.
They can look at it later.
Yep, yeah, it works out.
Some people are paper people.
And on the topic of this,
Cause they just don't.
They
Yes, they
are.
are.
for me,
What?
having spent a lifetime trying to make local organizations look professional. If there is something else we need, please ask and I will gladly build it.
I also would like to reiterate, somebody had just made the comment of they're gonna just put it in their pocket and leave with it. Totally cool. Totally right. If Josh, year before last, took all the guys, made them come around the corner, and then kind of filled them in. Well, that would bring all that to life too, as long as after August conference, we do something with those new officers.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna omit the names, omit the emails, keep the number and move on. Other than that, I think the books are great. They're very clear, they're very concise. I think they're awesome. So thank you for doing that.
With you on CPC for additional.
Yeah, anything you all need for this organization, printed or PDFs or paper or both, let me know, I'll make it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Vision, we kind of touched on that, pretty clear. We got the names of everybody going. We got the budget kind of finalized on that. So Okay, ACTE leadership, Durant, discuss strategic plan. I was not there. I had some personal matters attending to, so I'm not sure as to.
Yeah, I mean, we went over,
Melissa, are you gonna, do you have the record of that or?
I do. Josh was just kind of telling a little bit.
Yeah, Josh kind of stepped in.
yeah, we,
Okay, sorry.
no, we went over an entirety of the strategic plan, kind of what our goals to set out for the year was. Some of that, is stuff that we already really have in motion. I mean, because we've done a strategic plan before and we reevaluated the strategic plan that we had in the past and what we had accomplished and what we hadn't accomplished. And-
Crosswalked it.
Yeah, and I think we're on track with most of that, and most of that is stuff that happens with our, with Jeff and the financial stuff, or with awards, or with sending people to represent us at, like, Day of the Capitol, things like that, that are all just really they're already things that we do, we're just saying we're doing them. Because I think OKACTE for years did not, I don't think they knew, in my opinion, what was going on at the individual T&I level and what we were doing. But I think it was across the board with any of the other ones, whether it's BMIND or any of them. We're just writing down what was
Putting pen to paper.
That's right, that's right. And so, but it also gives us a good look at, well, we said we were gonna do that, but we never got to it. Yeah.
We need to be
Yeah,
better.
we failed on that strategically all the way. But yes, that's really what happened there. And those of you who weren't able to attend, or did get to attend, there are some really meaningful things that happened there. And I think for new folks, that's a really good place to go and attend, to get an idea of what's going on and some camaraderie between people. I know Jeff and I have said before and talked about family and kids and everything else, and then what got us involved in what we do and why we're doing them. So I know that there's more there than just sitting in those meetings. But if you get the opportunity to be a part of that, I definitively encourage you to try to be there. And you get a vision of what some of these other organizations are doing, and maybe where we've got some holes that we can fill. And then I learned some things, even from our person. We went to a meeting talking about how these meetings are run and things that we could do to be better and more organized. We're gonna be here for a few years and then we're gone, and we gotta leave it organized for somebody else. And I can tell you from my perspective that.
Is this the first year they've done that? First year?
No.
Nope, this is the third year that we've done this. Yeah,
Okay, ACT.
And they love to go to Durant.
yeah,
Really love drive.
cost what they tell us.
I actually would.
It's great for me too.
Thank you. Yeah. Alicia and I are.
Stay in a really nice casino.
I was gonna say, last year they gave us $10 in bonus points, so
Here,
can't beat that.
He gave me that.
Oh, we just invite the cluster presidents, or do we do the elects too?
I got an email, it's just timing's bad, cause it was like,
Oh, great.
It was, and this year was later, and so that's
This
one
year
of the
was later.
things we gave feedback on,
Yeah.
because some
It
people,
was quite a bit later.
they did it during, what was going on, Tulsa State Fair, so none of the ag people were there.
Right.
And then you also lose other people for that
it
too.
was September 30th.
Yes.
And it was, which I kinda liked that it started and kinda went, but,
In August, it was really tough with.
it's.
Yeah.
Very fast.
It was bad in August, because you were just.
And that affects
Too much other
us,
stuff going on.
that affects T&I more than
A
almost
lot.
everyone else. Because a lot of those others are not in the
Stuff
classroom.
for you.
I remember the first day 2 years ago. The day I went there, the time I went down there was the student's first day in the shop, and so
Yeah.
Johnny had 40.
Wow.
And his all were new and half of mine were new, so he had 75% new students.
Did Meridian still have to find their own subs? There were some schools.
Central Tech Drum right does.
Okay, so there were some schools that people couldn't come because they couldn't find a sub.
Yeah.
And that's
It
not,
didn't matter.
Well, I was planning on coming, but we had the home builders that I'm involved with had their boots on the ground tournament that they.
Yeah.
For our students, so I kind Take that instead.
Well, related to that, Si brought up an interesting point earlier about people that want to be involved in the process, but you don't have any backing from administration. If somebody gets elected and they say, their administration says, no, we can't do that. Then say, okay, we need a letter from you guys saying they can't do that. And then you guys just hang it over their head at evaluation time, accreditation time, and see if that doesn't get fixed.
That would be pretty cool.
You kind of need to wait till you're a veteran teacher to do that. Don't do it early.
Oh, while you're on probation or something, yeah.
Well, I read the rules. There's something in the rules that says that you have to be involved in professional organizations.
Thought so.
In regards to your provisional
License,
licenses,
right.
like if you're going through the process.
So much.
And we're, ooh, I can add that to.
Yeah, but if you're, the problem comes in too is if they've got several people.
Yeah, that's the hardest
trying
part.
to go.
The hardest part, like we keep talking about doing another new teacher thing and it's impossible because I can't ask 80 people. Like that's a lot of stuff. There's not that many subs in the state of Oklahoma. Right. So, yeah, it's hard. We can't make it mandatory.
It's like going to stillness.
Yeah.
Right.
So just like you ask your school to back up behind a state officer or something like that, they're gonna be committed to that. The same probably ought to apply to committees.
Well, I think that the support isn't necessarily you being an officer. I think it's the financial support of paying your travel. I think that was more of the issue that came up. And that is their discretion on how they use their local funds.
Mine is.
They don't, yeah, they don't have to.
Yeah, our school just now started limiting how many trips you can take and all of it.
Some schools are like, do whatever you
Just
want, and
like-
some schools are like, no, you've been gone 5 days and you have maxed out, so.
Yeah.
And some will pay your mileage and some won't, some will pay for it, you know, so that's why Durant, that's why Jeff was paying, some of the schools pay for hotels. And some of them don't, it just kind of depends on your school and what they do and what they believe in, but I think that was more the issue, Jody, honestly. I don't think it was you being an officer or even having the day, having a sub in your class, it was people wanted per diem and travel, which as a person that has to do that regularly, I think it's pretty expensive. They just up the per diem rate too for the state of Oklahoma.
So,
That makes sense.
so, sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking, didn't admin used to have to sign off?
Hey, 25 days, that's a chunk of money.
I had mine.
They don't let us do it.
You guys are going.
I think they, some of, I know ours,
Well, yeah, yeah.
had to go through that. I know ours request that, or like the leadership classes that I'm going through, you have to have that.
You have to have that.
Before you'll even figure out.
I'm just telling you that way. Yeah.
So I have a question too, is since we have this money that we need to earmark for stuff, could some of that cost offset? Is that what y'all were talking about? I'm sorry. I couldn't hear what
actually,
y'all were talking about.
Kind of,
We
there's
not,
money that's going somewhere else. That we don't talk to.
I was gonna say, yeah, could we not,
Properly used.
yeah, I was gonna say, could we not earmark some of that?
Yeah,
for-
that was what I had.
Yeah.
Okay,
Durant.
sorry, I brought it to what y'all were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so, strategic plan, we got pen to paper, let them know what we're gonna do. Okay, so, last bullet point, T&I gives back. Gonna kind of hand it to Josh here, cause he knows some of the legal behind it.
Yeah, so last year we voted at the end of the year, kind of when we were trying to kind of do a budget, trying to figure that system out. But we voted on a way to use the T&I gifts back to help assist with skills prizes. After speaking with the lady at the OKACT who does all the financial stuff and everything, when she heard gift cards, I thought she about fell out of her chair and fainted.
Who's that?
You're not, you are my gift card, you are.
Right, right, but that's,
That's a
but,
check.
yes,
Don't worry.
but that's what she said, is that we need to amend and say that we're gonna write a check to skills that
It's
is
just
to
a
be
sponsor
used
leadership prizes.
to sponsor prizes that go directly to students. Because the problem is financially with gift cards, once a gift card is purchased, there is no trail. And that puts whoever does that
See what you're saying.
Well, even though the person who got them, because there's no way to account for that gift card and how it gets from that person's hands to a student, and it's being used in the right way and all of those things. But when you write a check and give it to skills with the provision and a letter that says that it's being used in this way, we protect our financial secretary and we protect us who are fiduciaries of that money.
And this is for leadership, skills
Leadership contest only.
Leadership
Yeah.
contest.
That's what I just want to make
Yeah.
sure, skills.
So
leadership.
it meets, and I will say Jody and them worked feverishly last year to get that put in place, to try to get this to happen. And so all we have to do is make an amendment that says that we, in lieu of buying gift cards, we will write a singular check to Skills USA under the guides that it will be used for the leadership prizes only.
Skills USA Oklahoma.
Yes,
Did you say Oklahoma?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, is that. We have to do that, so I want to make sure that everybody is understanding and okay with that, because that
was the spirit of the motion.
That was the
Yes.
spirit of the motion.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that we're not stepping on
Friendly
anybody.
amendment.
So
I moved that we take the earmarked money from gift cards. Help me out, Josh. And
From gift cards to a check.
to a check.
That's it. Period.
That's
You
it.
don't need to say anything about giving it to.
No,
It's
because
already
it's
there.
already
Already in there.
Okay.
We're just changing the
We're
word.
gonna change the word to a check.
Okay, do we have a second?
second.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Sorry.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign?
Can I ask how much it was?
We did the math on how many contests it is. It's like 30.
We had a set amount. In the
Set amount per
I wanna say it's not
Yes.
30, 50 or 3,500.
I thought it was no more than 500.
Is it
That sounds
3,500?
right. That
Yeah,
sounds
we
right.
basically did the math on
How many leadership?
how many contests we had.
Divided it evenly.
They can.
In there.
So is that some, 'cause at some point you're,
And the amount of.
minutes that you're also gonna vote on that every year?
Okay, so
Amount of 3,000 per year.
It's in the,
It's in the minutes right here.
benefits go to state
The budget.
leadership contest
Sorry.
directly to a student
The budget
award
that
at State
should-
Skills USA in the amount of 3,000 a year.
3,000.
Mark seconded the motion, yeah.
It needs to
And
be
we-
voted on.
It needs to be put into.
Once it's in the budget, I think.
In the budget, it's fine.
We were just changing it from gift card to check.
Okay, hold on, hold on. It gets more, then, right, and then it came back and says,
Budget, that's.
an amount based on participation determined by the T&I Association.
So really what it comes down to, and you guys all know this, once we get registration numbers, we can tell you how many people are actually participating.
Stop. And
Or finding out how much money we actually need.
Because some don't make.
Yep. Some of them don't.
I forgot
fulfill.
about that.
Don't, some of them
Did
don't
that.
fulfill, but that's the max, like we did the math and that was the max amount we would need.
And it's voted on every year.
just please, guys, make sure that it's up to the discretion of the board per year.
Alright.
It's in the
Yeah,
budget.
we just talked about that.
Yep,
It
we got it.
It needs to be a line item though, and it needs to specifically say sponsorship awards at Oklahoma Skills USA State Competition.
We probably have,
I know.
we probably have to have a pretty clear, yearly agenda when we go to look at the budget, because we're having all these things that we're interested in getting into. We probably ought to go down event by event by event, and then put them in the line items, and that'll create that budget. So, and then somebody needs to.
It was too broad at August conference, I agree, and that's kind of the reasoning as to why we're gonna have the May meeting.
We were scrambling the day.
Exactly, the day before.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're all sitting there, Mark's working on a PowerPoint as he's driving to Tulsa. I mean, we don't want that to happen again. So that's the point behind the May meeting, is just to kind of prep for some.
Let me say on this, just, I've spent my lifetime doing that, so it's nothing to me.
I know, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, poor Mark, he's gonna drive off the road.
It's doing my business.
Yeah, you're amazing.
All right.
Crazy to the rest of us.
Gift card will now be
a check.
Yeah, check.
Right into Oklahoma Skills USA.
Okay. We got it?
Almost.
Almost.
I haven't.
Sorry,
seen
that-
it today.
I think I got it now. Got it.
All right,
Just interject something.
one more thing. No, he said we're done.
Sign is fired, his lasers.
Not the answer I was wanting. The challenge I have with that is it gets lazy teachers.
It's just leadership.
I don't care.
Okay, I just wanna make sure
And
you.
I don't mean to be rude.
No, I understand.
But he does. His job is.
Keep going, keep going.
I mean, I've been playing with them for I don't know how many, but it's a little over 30 years. And I've hustled and busted butt, Billy and I both have, to make sure, and Jeff and others, to make sure that kids that compete and win have something to take home. That's our responsibility.
But there's no trade group over leadership.
Buffalo stuff.
Oh, no, I would love for there to be a trade group. over
That was why we.
They're T&I teachers. Those kids come from carpentry, masonry, electrical, plumbing, whatever, cosmetology, whatever program.
Well,
And
and
I've got a leadership kid and it's looking like they're not gonna get a prize. I'm gonna go to Lowe's and say, hey, I need some, or to our building center or whatever. Say, hey, I need a couple of gift cards for a leadership student. They're not really in carpentry. Okay.
That's
Just
true.
li-
That's something we can bring to our trade groups and just ask for more prizes for leadership categories. Absolutely, so, yeah.
I will add,
Those are my thoughts. I mean, I like what this group is doing. I do have a heart and I think that's kind of a neat deal. I'm just saying that.
I will add to that, we changed it from the T&I Gives Back Scholarship to this because this is money that we need to get rid of. Because nobody's done the scholarship for so many years.
Just
And
setting there.
My two, I didn't want to go big.
They should prime the pump for the trade group, to pick up the slack and take care of
well,
that.
and we can start, in our meetings and.
As a board.
To answer some of that, if you go back in the minutes, some of the discussion that took place is there are schools that do not allow the solicitation of at all. You cannot.
Yes.
There's quite a few of them and it's growing.
So I will say this.
Then those students don't get prizes. And I'm telling you, because
It's already in carpentry.
yeah, yeah.
Big play, yeah.
And your student doesn't get a prize and little Johnny's mom finds out he won first place. And he missed out on $1,500 worth of prizes.
But this is leadership.
I don't care what comes.
I mean, we're not.
Little Johnny or little Annie or whoever, if mama gets mad. They come to the side and say, well, your contest chair, how come he didn't get a prize? I said, well, because your school doesn't participate in prize donations. I don't know, I've talked to their administration.
Just a history.
I think that kind of hurts the kid.
It hurts them.
There's a kid, but I mean, it's gonna end up fixing problems.
Yeah,
Fixing the problem.
You hide it behind the- Anyways, we're ready to go there. I will say this though, we have new marketing material coming out asking for sponsors because we're trying to solicit more money and get more industry partners. And since you will be giving more than $2,500, the T&I Association will go.
How about that? Whoa.
I don't know, maybe I'll put it on the sleeve. So they
Yeah, put it on the
yeah.
sleeve.
It's tattoo T&I on it.
I'll tell you another. Home Depot, we to get how much?
Lowe's.
Lowe's.
They don't give us any.
They gave what?
It was a percentage based on, well. Like $10, you get 17,000.
Yeah, that was part of the conversation, was to try to figure out a way to help that. Not necessarily to get prizes, that was the easiest way.
Then we had to take up.
That's what we do. We got our teamwork contests.
We had other.
March 7th, our next meeting, location, PTA, how did everybody stay meridian? I think we're trying to still work that out.
You know, March 7th.
Yeah, March 7th. And we usually get them.
I would really like to encourage people to take on the role of the leadership, starting with, I think technology center. Say, I will chair this, because you really do have to set a date on that. If you don't do it until March, you're not gonna have a leadership retreat next year. Very end of story, because you guys are talking about in the fall. So.
No, I was just asking different questions.
I didn't know,
Hey, Mark, it's already on Facebook. You were raising your hand.
Happy, I mean, I'd be happy to chair, but I don't want to do it by myself, so when you. I mean. As long as they're.
Take a day and stay on.
Got it.
And find, and from there.
Hold on.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Hi.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know, Zach made Thanksgiving dinner for his students every year, so when we talked about doing this at a tech center, he's like, I'll just cook for you guys too, so.
Nice.
I'm sure a lot of you do.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, how awesome your instructor is.
He used to have a partner in crime, but somebody hired him at the.
It's weird.
I don't know, like, he used to help cook all this.
And with that being said, we need to, go over to. Zach, for.
No, I just wanted to.
Hey, guys, we're gonna see you Zoom.
Money down.
Yeah, I do have, we'll actually have certification, so later.